We all know and love the Disney classic Pocahontas, but the truth behind the story is actually a lot more messed up than anyone ever thought. Stay tuned to find out why John Smith and Pocahontas may have never actually been in love. Are you new around here? Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to The Things for more great content like this. Now onto the messed up real story of Pocahontas. The film. Was it just us, or was Pocahontas one of your favorite Disney princesses too? She was a total boss, whereas most princesses are kind of meek and gentle and do whatever their fathers tell them. In the film, Pocahontas was her own person. She did what she wanted and she never took no for an answer. Okay, if you aren't familiar with the film, first of all, what have you been doing with your life? But we'll be kind and back up a little bit. So, the Disney film centers around Pocahontas, who is the daughter of the chief of the Powhatan tribe. At the beginning of the movie, our favorite heroine learns that her father wants to marry her off to Kocoum, who seems nice and is super hot, but Pocahontas just doesn't love him. During all of this time, the British settlers come to Pocahontas' land. John Smith, one of the settlers, is less interested in the gold that his crew came to find and more interested about actually exploring the new world. While he is exploring, he meets and falls in love with Pocahontas, but their love affair is pretty doomed because John tells his leader that there is no gold in the land, and instead of backing off, the leader declares that they will wipe out all of the natives. Seems reasonable, right? In the midst of all this secret romance and battling, Thomas, one of John's friends, ends up taking Kocoum's life. Later, John is taken as captive, but instead of letting him be hurt, Pocahontas throws herself in front of John and begs her father to save him and not to start a war. John is spared, but does end up getting a gunshot wound and has to travel back to England for treatment. But before they part, Pocahontas promises John that he will always be in her heart. So cute, right? Well, it's all a bunch of make-believe. Pocahontas is the first Disney movie that was created about a real-life person, except Disney didn't actually include many of the real details. The real story. Here's what really happened. Apparently, Pocahontas' mother died giving birth to her. Her birth name was actually Matoaka, which means flower between two streams, and was probably given to her because she was born between the rivers of the Mattapony and the Pamunkey. After her mother died, Pocahontas' father was really sad, and Pocahontas became his favorite child because she looked so much like her mother. She was raised by her aunts and other women in their tribe. During that time, it was customary for the paramount chief to have other wives. So Pocahontas' dad had a few other wives in other villages. So the family wasn't just Pocahontas and her dad like the movie made it seem. Here's where the story starts to get creepy. According to her tribe history, Pocahontas was only about 10 years old when John Smith and the colonists arrived in 1607. John Smith was around 27, so if they did have something going on, it would have been absolutely disgusting. Luckily, they were actually never married or even involved with one another. The children of Pocahontas' tribe were all watched very carefully, and because she was a princess of sorts, she was probably watched even more closely and provided with cultural training that the other children did not get. On the other side, in the movie, we saw John Smith as this guest guy who saw all men as equal and was both equally kind and hot. In real life, the native people stayed away from him because he was known to go into people's villages and put guns to their heads and demand food and other supplies. In the winter, John Smith met with the Powhatan warriors and ended up being captured by the chief's brother. Luckily for John, the Powhatans agreed with the English on one thing. They both feared being attacked by the Spanish, so they formed an alliance. After a while, the tribe began to like John and offered him a role as a leader and gave him a better area to live in. After many years passed, John said that Pocahontas saved his life during the 4-day process where he was initiated into a leadership position with the tribe. But according to written accounts from Pocahontas' tribe, that could have never happened. This is for a few reasons. First, the tribe wouldn't have been trying to hurt him if he was receiving such a big honor. Second, children weren't allowed in any of the ritual ceremonies, so Pocahontas wouldn't have been allowed to be in attendance. So though the movie showed Pocahontas selflessly throwing herself in front of John Smith, that never happened in real life. Pocahontas also never actually defied her dad to bring food to John Smith and his crew in Jamestown. Why not? Well, because Jamestown was 12 miles from where Pocahontas lived. There's no way a 10-year-old girl would have traveled that far alone, especially not a chief's daughter. If she did somehow manage to escape her father and her people to head to Jamestown, she would have had to cross several bodies of water. That would have required using one of the 400-pound canoes that her tribe had. There was no way she could have lifted one of those canoes into the water by herself. So Pocahontas actually didn't have much at all to do with John Smith. When she was 15 or 16, she actually did marry Kocoum, had a child with him, and moved to his village. Soon, a colonist named Samuel Argall went to look for Pocahontas in order to capture her. He demanded that the tribe give her up or suffer an attack. She was forced to leave her child in the village and go with Samuel. Though she went as she was told, Kocoum was still attacked after she left. Later, Pocahontas married Englishman John Ralph and converted to Christianity. Some say that she married him for love, but she was never allowed to see her family again, so it doesn't sound like the relationship was very mutually beneficial. John Ralph is mentioned in the second Pocahontas film, and she does go on to marry him in the movie, but Disney conveniently leaves out the kidnapping and how the two ended up meeting, probably because no one would be able to sleep through the night after hearing the real story. And that's it for the messed up real story of Pocahontas. Were you surprised by the difference in the two stories? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching!